Hey, so first off, thanks for supporting me. I'm thinking I want to try doing something like this on a weekly basis, just for a few minutes to give a little bit of behind the scenes for what I'm doing, I guess in my life, primarily focused on the topics, obviously, that my branding is about, right? So about software engineering and the kind of things that I'm doing in that space. So it's worth mentioning that for myself, in my career, I am a software engineering manager. So my day-to-day job is actually now at this point removed from actually writing code. It's a pretty big departure from what I was doing prior to working at Microsoft, where I was still a software engineering manager for like 8 years, but I was still actively coding at work, just given, it was like a more of a startup mode at that time, right? So I still want to make sure because I love to program, I still actively develop things. So this is an opportunity where I can kind of talk about the different things that I'm building, working on, and unfortunately, I have a bad habit of kind of getting into, arguably too many things at once in parallel, so it's a little bit tricky to see something all the way through to the end. And I might attribute that just to the fact that I enjoy the software creation process, so it's not uh it's not as fulfilling for me to get to a point where I ship something and all of a sudden I could make money or something. I mean, that would be cool, but I actually just enjoy the creation process. So when there's something else that I could try going to build and learn about, that's what I'm attracted to. So anyway, with that said, the couple of different things that I have going on, my biggest project that I'm pouring as much attention to as I can is something called Meal Coach. So this is a system kind of built upon some ideas that I had in university, which scary to say was over a decade ago now, and it's basically an algorithm that helps uh, meal planning purposes. So, given nutritional constraints and things like that, it's able to generate meal plans that fit your needs, and it works really quickly. So, with it, like literally within 2 seconds, you have a full meal plan that's kind of tailored to exactly what you're looking for. So this is something that I am pretty passionate about. I feel like if I look back to university, if I would have just stuck with this idea, I think that maybe I would have had a different trajectory in my career. Um, I'm not trying to suggest that that's something that I think I don't know, like would have absolutely taken off. I don't think I probably had some of the skill sets and the focus that I necessarily could have done that, but in hindsight, I just think that there's a lot of value in that idea, and maybe I didn't trust myself enough that I could actually make it work. So at this point, this is something that I kind of do after hours just because I love to do it. And we have a functioning site and everything. It's just that when it comes to the actual usability, we put a lot of emphasis on how usable something is. So just because the functionality's there, if it doesn't feel like extremely intuitive, like obvious, all of that, then it doesn't feel good and people don't want to use it. So it's something that I feel like unfortunately there's so much time and effort spent in the usability part that it almost feels like it kind of stalls us from developing. So we need to get to a point where we're having feedback on that kind of stuff so that we can feel like the features we can make progress on. So anyway, it's I'm really excited about that project. I think it's super cool. And the other parts to that we're trying to build in are really around the uh the idea that week over week we want people to feel like they're able to make progress in their goals, whatever those happen to be. So kind of building in a like a check-in mechanism that is tailored to that person. So it doesn't, if you're not a bodybuilder, for example, you don't need to submit posing pictures and answer like a ton of like detailed information like specific to bodybuilding, but it could be something as simple as like, hey, like what meals did you not like, things like that, and we can use that to kind of tailor your next week. So anyway, that's one really exciting project that I'm really excited about. So I think I just said excited too many times because I'm excited. And yeah, I also should mention too, I want to try keeping these mostly unedited. I might do like an intro or something, but I'm gonna try to not cut them just so you have an opportunity to kind of see I actually am without any video magic and stuff like that. That's barring something like the three dogs we have bursting into this room and causing mayhem, but maybe I'll leave that in too. Okay, so other projects, I guess worth mentioning, like outside of software, I'm definitely trying to ramp up social media presence. So, I mean, this video in particular, I suspect will be posted and not viewed or viewable until like months later, maybe even a year from now before the first person actually gets a chance to see it. I don't know how that's necessarily going to work on. I don't even know how to say this properly. Patreon, is that I guess how you pronounce how you pronounce this? I read it in my head and don't even know. So I'm not at a point yet where I could accept any type of monetary income from anything like this. So I don't know when I will have. I mean, it's not like I flip a switch and all of a sudden I have a million people on Patreon like trying to pay me for information. But I don't even know if I could do that. I don't. I'm not. I guess at a point where I can do that. So I'll park that for now, but when it's time, I'm hoping that I'd have a bunch of videos like this when people start actually subscribing, and I can take some of that monetary incentive. That there's a sort of like an archive of these built up, which would be kind of cool. Okay, so social media stuff, it's taken up a lot of time, but I think it's kind of necessary. I just want to get it optimized to a point where it feels like it's in the background. Obviously, filming videos is going to be taking time, but that's just kind of a reality. Um, so some projects are coming out of the social media space because I'm trying to create content around them. One of them is the social media assistant that I'm building with my friend Jamal, who at this point has been doing basically all of the video editing, which is great. Has really simplified a lot of my processes. So, like I said, I'm probably going to keep these ones pretty raw, so you probably won't edit these at all, but we'll see. But that social media assistant's a really cool opportunity where I can teach Jamal how to program. It's not really his wheelhouse. So I'll be teaching him how to do that, but we can also create some code and share it publicly. The goal for that social media assistant to start is really just to have like a follower counter, but based on a plugin system, so we can wire it up to all these social media sites. So that'll be kind of neat, and if we get it working, we can kind of see if there's a hopefully a trajectory where there's more followers and things like that. So that'll be cool. And another sort of space, obviously, well, like I said, by the time this goes live, I'm very curious to know where things are at. But all the open AI stuff is, extremely popular. Everyone's talking about open AI and Chat GPT. So I've been trying to write a bit of code that for social media purposes, I can have people kind of more engage with that just because it is kind of trending. But the space is super interesting. I just don't think that like I don't have capacity to go building like the next coolest AI thing. But I want to make sure I'm staying on top of it. So I'm trying to do things like writing APIs to OpenAI in C sharp. It's my preferred language, and if you're if you're following all of this stuff, you probably know that by now. But a lot of the AI stuff that I see is like everyone's using Python for it. I don't have anything against Python. I just don't use it. I can read it, I could write in it if I needed to, but it's like basically if I have to go if someone came to me and said like, "Hey, could you go build thing X?" I feel like if I use C sharp, I can build anything that someone asked me to. So it just takes out all the guesswork about the language and the capability. So I just lean on C sharp a lot. So OpenAI stuff in C sharp, trying to stay on top of that. Social media assistant, meal coach is my priority. And then sort of I have this ongoing project that I've been doing like I'm not exaggerating for 20 years, just this role playing game that that's sort of my dumping ground for trying out different design patterns and things like that. It's called Macerus. Uh, will it ever get finished? I don't think so. And to be honest, I don't know if I actually care if it ever gets finished. It's almost like not the point. It's a 2D role playing game. It kind of looks like kind of looks like Pokemon. Like that's how old school. Tactics Ogre, if you're familiar with that. What's the other one? Final Fantasy Tactics, like that kind of style. And I'm just trying to include like complex role-playing game systems into it. So it's a lot of fun for me to think about those complex systems and then how I can map that into my own game. And the graphics and stuff suck, so it's not something I'm good at, and I don't invest the time into it. So that's just another project that I like kind of going back to, and um, I kind of feel like I'm in a sandbox of Lego with all of the pieces that you could possibly imagine. I can just start building whatever I want when I'm playing with that. So that's probably all the projects. I would maybe it's worth kind of doing a brief recap on like the week because I want to do these on a weekly basis. So yeah, just honestly, this week because I've been trying to experiment a bit with the social media posting and like maybe the best ways to do that. I've actually felt like I haven't had a lot of time for meal coach after work hours, which sucks because I really like working on it, and I just want to make sure that I keep that motivation and that sort of that drive up. So I'm going to be trying to like especially going into the weekend and starting next week. I want to make sure that that becomes like a focus priority again because uh, I feel like for these types of things, at least for me, when I get to a point where I feel that I'm not focusing on it, I start to feel bad about it. And then I feel like I don't know the best way to explain it, but I almost feel guilty and then I avoid it even more. And it's a really vicious cycle, which sounds ridiculous because I want it to grow and succeed and I want to invest more time in it and I enjoy it. So it sounds funny to say that by feeling guilty that I end up neglecting it more. So I want to make that top of mind as I go into this weekend and next week. So that's one thing. Um, work's busy and busy's good. So a lot of interesting things that are different experiences for me at work constantly, which is cool. So it's it's been a decade as an engineering manager now, and I feel that the scale of Microsoft is always like uh, it's always I don't know the best way to say this. Like when I say new surprises, I don't mean like a bad thing. I just mean it's like all these opportunities where I'm put into scenarios where I'm like, hey, I've never actually had to think about this at this scale, or I've never had to uh, do so much work like across geographic locations and time zones. So even if you take really simple scenarios that come up maybe all the time in a team, now I start to see flavors of those come up across different uh, geographic regions, time zones, whether there's cultural impact, so many different things. And so it's just super cool because um, it's it's always new experiences. So it sometimes puts me in this position where I felt pretty confident as an engineering manager for I don't know at least the few years going leading up to Microsoft and coming to Microsoft. Definitely a lot of imposter syndrome, which I think is normal for everyone. So I want to talk more about that at some point, but I certainly feel it a lot, and it's just going to take some time, I think, to have more exposure to experiences like this, where I'm like, yeah, like I'm familiar enough with this. Like, why am I second guessing myself? I have my leadership is awesome. They trust me. My team is awesome. They trust me. Like, why do I feel like I don't trust myself, right? So I think that's just an internal thing. It'll take some time and some work, so I'm not worried about it, but it's top of mind for me because I realize that it's happening. So anyway, I think maybe I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go too long on these because I'll bore people to death, but anyway, that's some insight into my life, and hopefully next week when I do this, I'll have updates on how I was able to kind of make sure that I prioritize some more time for meal coach after hours. And yeah, we'll leave it at that. So thanks again for all your support. Like I said, if you're watching this a year after the recording date, that's going to be kind of neat, a little time capsule. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next week. So take care.